Hello designers, this is Rebecca, and this is our critique for our assignment for late modern villain portrait. So let's just check the specs again, just to make sure we got everything in our assignments. So it says that we're going to use Photoshop to create a portrait of the villain from our novel, incorporating elements inspired by the late modern movement from the presentations that you saw. The required specs are a 6x9 file, CMYK portrait format only. The figures must be a photograph that you shot yourself for this project. You need to include, the image must be retouched. You can choose any color scheme from the swatch library in Photoshop. You must include texture effects specifically covered in the section in the tutorials. Text is mandatory and in the form of a quote from or about the villain. You may only use fonts from this list below here, right here in the font options, and it may only use a maximum of 2 fonts with no typos. So our font options are Bodini font family, Compacta, Helvetica, Trade Gothic, Century font, DIN Schrift, Franklin Gothic, Lubelin Graph regular, and Avant-Garde Gothic font family. All right, let's get rolling. First up, we have Daniela. This is a great portrait, Daniela. I love your inspiration from Twin magazine, and the dark color palette that you used is very ominous, and your model is making a great expression. I think it's fantastic. So really nice work with your font along the top too. It's very Twin-like, and I think this is neat, this multiple exposure effect, and yeah, it's all good. It's so dramatic and dark. I love it. Really good work there. Nice job with your quote too. It looks great. Next up is Nusha. Nusha did The Great Gatsby. We're getting closer here. We need to make sure that it's a photo that you shot for this assignment yourself. And so we've got our villain for The Great Gatsby. We got some texture effects. So, and I don't know if Too Bad Imposing is a quote from the book or not. So just make sure, if it is, you put it in quotes so we know, and that you use a photo that you shot for this assignment. So next up is Mitchell. Mitchell is doing Don Quixote. And Mitchell, I'm not sure what's going on with this file, but it is humongous. So just go back and check on your export settings, because if you use this file, it's going to make your InDesign file really huge as well. So just double check on that. Maybe there's some compression that can happen to make it a smaller file. This looks so good though. I love it. It's really fantastic. This great color palette. The knight helmet looks really wonderful. I like the font that you used for your quote. All of it looks so good. I love your font alignment along the bottom as well. It's really great. Really fantastic. I'm not sure if you need that black stroke on the red up there. Give it a try without it and see if you like it or not, okay? But other than that, it's fantastic. Next up is Angelina. Angelina did The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I like this Reed Miles effect. It looks really good, and it's kind of having this mirrored figure, and the 2 different colors is kind of like, it's like a dual personality kind of feeling. It looks really cool, and I like how you treated your text. The vertical text looks really nice, and breaking it up by changing the font color makes it really legible. It's a really nice way to separate the words. So really good solutions here. I love your effects. It all looks really good. There's some stuff going on down here by their hands, so you may want to go in there and just clean up that mask a bit between the fingers, because it gets really brightly highlighted in both sides. So that's the only thing I recommend. And then this is supposed to be a vertical, like a portrait layout. You can use this in your book if you wanted to have it like some sort of a spread across the 2 pages, but just know that the requirement was for a portrait layout. But other than that, very nice work. Next up is Romeo's piece. Romeo did The Great Gatsby as well. This looks fantastic. It's really nicely done, really Felix-ish, and I love it. So really nice effect, and it turned out great. I love this color palette. Looks really good. Your font looks really nice. So don't forget to include a quote from Tom Buchanan in this. And but other than that, I also like the scratchy texture that you laid over it too. It looks awesome. Really great work. Thanks so much, Romeo. Next up is Delvon's piece. Delvon is doing Malcolm X, and you have your quote down here from Elijah Muhammad, and I like your effects that you used on the portrait as well. This nice dark background is a really nice touch as also. Just a note on the text, when you have left aligned text with a jagged right edge, we don't hyphenate that text, okay? So you can just place your cursor right in here after this comma and do a line break, which is holding down shift and return. And then I would also recommend your next line break after this comma here before the word black. And then if you want, you can just do a line break after every comma, but you don't have to. Just make sure that you do a line break before self-proclaimed, and then we don't want a word down here that's less than 7 characters by itself. We call that an orphan. So once you do your line breaks and stuff, you can bring this last word up after messenger of. You can bring messenger of Allah all on one line, okay? So that'll just clean up your hyphens a little bit more and make your paragraph not have any orphans. But other than that, I think using that color is good. It helps to really separate it from the background so it's nice and legible. And yeah, other than that, it's great. Good job. Next up is Kyle. Kyle did Tangerine. Looks really great. Kyle, really ominous with all this darkness, and I like these characters back here adding some nice perspective. It really helps a lot. Your font looks really fantastic. You've got a great description of Eric Fisher, and your model did a good job, like looking mean. It's really wonderful. So good work there. The only thing I see is with the thumb here hidden underneath the football, it makes it look like the football's pasted on top. So I recommend going in and selecting the thumb area, copying it, and then pasting it as another layer on top of the football, and then it'll look like the hand is more wrapped around, kind of holding the football a bit more. The football also has a bit of a glow by this selection here. So you can select the football itself, go to selection, and choose, I believe it's called reduce. I think that's the word that is in that menu there. Just double check, but you can reduce that selection by maybe 2 or 3 pixels, and then you'll get rid of that glow there. You don't have to go in and reselect the whole thing yourself. So that'll help blend it a little bit more as well. All right, but other than that, it looks fantastic. Way to go, Kyle. Next up is Lofton. Lofton did Uglies. This is a really beautiful effect. Looks very Felix-ish as well. Maybe a little, oh, I forgot his name now. The guy who did all those really dramatic movie posters. I totally forgot his name. But I love this pink font. It looks really great. It adds a nice pop down there and pulls our eye down to read that text. So really beautiful work. This looks awesome. The only thing I recommend is in your text, just add a space between the S and the 3 ellipses, and same with over here, add a space between the 3 ellipses and the A. So that's just like a formatting thing, and then it'll be formatted perfectly. So really wonderful work, Lofton. I love it. Great job. Next up is Vanessa. Vanessa did The Giver. And so this is the Elder Chief. Really nice portrait here. It looks really good. I love this color palette that you chose. Really great. And I'm glad to see that you attempted to do the tutorial that I posted there. So I love all of it. The text looks good, really good. You could put the text in quotes, especially since you have who said it below there. And it doesn't need to be all capitalized. So just capitalize it as a sentence, just, the first word, and then Elder Chief should both be capitalized like you have it. So really nice there. You also don't need your name at the bottom down here, but everything looks really great here. The only thing that's distracting me is there is this like fuzziness going on here. So I would just go in and like copy one of these circles and maybe paste it here, or you can select that area with your lasso that is being fuzzy and just then hit delete, and that should go away if it's on its own layer. If it's not, then just cover it up with a sharper shape there. And then there's a few little pieces out here in your yellow area that you can fix by either erasing them, using the spot healing tool, that kind of thing. And I see a little spot over here of white, so you could paint over that with the yellow. You could also paint over these areas with the yellow as well, just to kind of clean those up and make it all a bit crispier. But other than that, it looks fantastic. Way to go, Vanessa. Next up is Matthew. Matthew did the outsiders. Matthew, this looks really good. I love how dark you made the right side, and then you have this nice red gradient. It's super dramatic. Your model did a great job looking nice and tough and, you know, like the outsiders. So really good there. The text does get a bit hard to read over here in this gradient. Excuse me. So that's the only thing. Like reading "you," the word "you" is a bit tough, um, but it's not impossible. So I'm not like against it. This over here though is too close to your margin, so you will need to adjust that. If you nudge your text over to the left a bit, then we're going to lose even more of the letter Y in the beginning of that quote. So just see what you can do there. You may be able to just, if your gradient, if the red gradient is on its own layer, then you can extend it to the left a bit, like beyond your artboard, and then that will bring more of where it starts to fade into gray. I'm sorry, where it starts to fade into black. It'll bring more of it over towards that left side, so it may bring up the visibility of that quote. I'm also not sure if your quote is on the top layer. You could just you could give it one of those really subtle drop shadows that I showed in one of those tutorials where, your the spread and everything, the spread and size is just 1 pixel, and then that will separate it enough to be able to stay legible. But just center up that quote or make it 2 lines so that you have more space. You have a bit more of margin going on, so you don't get too close to that trim line there. Other than that, it's fantastic. I love it. I like this composition. It looks really nice. Next up is Hannah. Hannah did Alice Isn't Dead. This is fantastic, Hannah. I love it. I love the color palette that you chose. I love this like stamp or Xerox effect. It looks really good. Your text looks fantastic. I like the font that you chose, and the quote that you used is really funny. Your model did a great job. It's just all really, really good. I think I really like how the shirt recedes into the table, and so it just brings like the attention to the plate. You've got a nice kind of balance between with using the red on the plate as well as in the figure. The only thing I think is that I don't believe the word R is capitalized in a title when it's title cased like this. So just double check that. Just Google it and see if R should be capitalized or not. Other than that, I like the painting that you did along the figure's hand and arm. Looks really great. It's all really clean and looks fantastic. Way to go, Hannah. Next up is Audrey. Audrey did Lord of the Flies. This looks really cool, Audrey. The colors that you chose are really nice, and I see some texture here, and the effects that you used are great. I like to see that you used some stuff from my tutorials. I do need to see a quote about Jack, but this background that you made is really neat. This effect of it, the text lines being far apart and then scrunching down and overlapping at the bottom. It's really cool. And you don't need to have Lord of the Flies at the bottom there. Well, I guess you could actually. I guess you could use Lord of the Flies as your quote, maybe. I'm not sure. Just see how you feel about that. If you'd like that to be your quote or not. But I think it's really cool how these lines are fuzzy. They're a bit blurred, but then all these shapes are nice and sharp. It's a really neat juxtaposition there. And then you've got this texture in the background as well. So it looks wonderful. Way to go, Audrey. Next up is Aylin, and I'm sorry if your name's pronounced Eileen and I've been mispronouncing it this whole time. I feel terrible about that. But I love this piece. It looks so good. I really like these two muted colors together. It's a really nice effect. It's kind of an effect that people are using now with, just having like sort of a monochromatic color palette, but these softer colors. It looks really great, but it's still very late modern, the style that you used with from my from the tutorial. It's very reminiscent of the pieces that we saw. The text looks fantastic. I like that you separated this vertical text with nice big spaces so that we can read everything. It looks so good. I love it. Fantastic work. The model looks so great. Uh, you did a really great job. Great work. Thank you. Next up is Rihanna's piece. Rihanna, this looks really nice. The I like the two-tone that you used here. I think it is that the image could be more contrasty though. There's like it's a bit gray, so it's a bit flat. So if you could just pump up the blacks a bit to make them a bit richer here in the shadows, and then you may need to pump up the whites a bit too, because there's going to be some white here. You could also, if you wanted to, cut the background out, and then it will be even more kind of Reed Miles-ish, because it'll just make it even more dramatic. So give that a shot if you'd like to. The only other thing too is that it doesn't look like the text is quite centered. So I recommend centering up that text a bit. You could also then center your figure by cropping it a bit, like cropping the image a bit, but just see what you want to do there. I recommend having each of these sentences just be on one line only, because these words are a bit too short to be on their own line, and they're not quite words that need to be emphasized on their own. So I recommend running this text back, the word wrong back up to the line above it, and then bringing guys up to the line above it as well. You may need to make this type a little bit smaller, but it'll be just as effective because you are breaking up the quote, so it'll look good. Just trust me on that one. But other than that, so we just need to, it's a great photo, and the quote that you chose is really good. And that's all. Thanks so much for watching. I can't wait to see your final versions and the final presentation.